Okay, so finally out at the range with the SA-35 from Springfield Armory and all of the upgrades from Apex Tactical. So those upgrades include the previously shown magwell, and I also have the ginormous 19-round extended magazines and the 17-round magazine from Apex Tactical. But what I'm really excited about for today is testing out this new trigger. So I've installed the entire trigger kit from Apex Tactical. That includes the physical trigger that you see here, nice flat face trigger, much different than the curved trigger. Also includes the hammer that you see, which is again the more traditional high power style hammer. And it includes the sear and some internal parts as well. This is not going to be a how-to video, and I'm not going to show you the installation process because that makes this a whole different kind of video. Okay, so everything is fully installed and fully tested. And now is the very important test at the range, live fire for the first time. So again, I'm really excited to get out here and do this. I've put quite a bit of work into making these changes, so I'm anxious and hopeful to see them pay off. All right, so that was 15 rounds, a little bit low left, which is my personal signature, but I was holding pretty much of a center hold. But again, this isn't really, not so much about accuracy and about the sight and all that. This is really about feeling the action, and boy, does that feel good. That first 15 rounds, first and foremost, flawless performance, no problem at all. Mechanically, no problem at all. Functionally, boy, the feel of it is really, really nice. This flat face trigger, definitely more conducive to an action type scenario or a competition. You know, this is a gun now, this SA-35, you could shoot this as a match gun. With these mags, this magwell and this trigger, this is a match gun. All right, so let me continue on. I really want to put a bunch of rounds down range. I'm going to try and shoot several different types of ammo as far as brand and power and stuff, just to give it a good, thorough test. I want to make sure that everything is working exactly like it should. So I've just clicked on the safety, and with it safely pointed at the berm down range, safety is working fine. And that's important because there were some modifications made physically to that part. Safety off. Beautiful, nice click, just like it should have. Back at it. Took about a pound off of the trigger weight with this new trigger. And boy, I can tell the difference. Except for that. Okay, let's see. So I am configured in ready to fire mode. I didn't notice anything strange feel wise. So let's see if maybe we didn't eject or chamber another round. All right. Well, I did. All right, put that back in the magazine and let's try that again. I'll pay a little more careful attention. I have a slight failure to eject. So, and that almost looks like an extraction issue, but I'm not really sure. I will continue on, and we'll make no judgments yet. Okay, back to it. Magazine number 3. This is also the 19 round extended. So I had that one mysterious failure where I basically just had a dead trigger on a live round. I don't know what that was about. And then I had that very last round, didn't fully eject. So I'm not sure. And again, I'm starting with the safety on, because I do want to continue to test that. Safety's on and working properly. Safety off, back to it. Okay, very good. I went a little bit slower that time because I wanted to be paying attention in case anything weird happened, but nothing weird did. Like taking your car to the mechanic, right? So setting those two sort of misfunctions aside for the moment, neither of which was anything serious. One, for whatever reason, it just didn't have an active trigger on a live round, and I don't know why. But the other one where it didn't eject, again, anomalous at this point in time until that happens again. Those two things set aside, wow. Wow, I'm loving the way this thing feels with this trigger. I love the SA-35 anyway. It's such fantastic, and how could it not be, right? We all know that this is you know, copied from the Browning high power design. And I think, in my opinion, I think this is the truest copy with modernization. So Springfield did a fantastic job of staying extremely true and faithful to the original design, but they've also made a modern gun out of it. And part of the upgrade as well, previously, these lock grips, which are absolutely fantastic. These are G10 grips, not the wood panel grips, and the coloring is very similar to the original grips, so it kind of keeps that same look, which is great, but they just feel a little bit better. And this is the palm swell configuration of the lock grips, which makes this gun feel a lot fuller in your hand. It doesn't have that flat slab-sided feel. It's just ergonomically, with the curve on the back strap, I think that just makes a perfect combination. So nice to hold. This flat face trigger breaks at almost 90 degrees, not quite. I'd say maybe 85 degrees or so. When you hit the wall and break, your trigger is just about straight up and down, but that flat face feels really good. Apex didn't really do anything to modify or change the reset position or the reset distance of the trigger with this kit, but the configuration of the trigger, the flat face, makes it feel like it's a shorter reset, if that makes sense to you guys. So, you know, just by virtue of the geometry change, I think it feels like it's got a shorter reset. Okay, up to this point, I've been shooting Herder's ammo, Herder's 115 grain ball ammo. I'm now switching over to PMC bronze, also 115 grain. Let me check while I'm saying that. Yep. But I think the PMC tends to be a little bit warmer load. Again, though, I just want to cycle different brands of ammo through the gun. different types of loads and see how it's functioning, see if that makes any difference at all. It shouldn't, I don't expect it to, but it is part of it. So with the PMC Bronze now, let's shoot full magazine. I've got, oh, this is, by the way, this is the magazine that that I had both of those. I don't even want to call it malfunction. That just seems like too strong a word. I mean, it technically is a malfunction, but it's sort of a misfunction. It's a dysfunctional thing. But anyway, this is the magazine where both of those occurred. So I'm going to keep track of it and see if maybe it has something to do with the magazine. Maybe the spring or follower isn't quite right. Okay, PMC. All right, 10 for 10, no problems. Same, PMC. I'm going to speed up the pace a little bit with this 10. No, I'm not. Well, so failure to feed. I'm going to lock the slide back, drop the mag. I'm going to put that round back in, and we'll try that again. It fed, but I could feel a slight bump on its way in, so it barely fed. So back to it. Okay, so another anomaly with one failure to feed. All right, I said earlier that this gun really now could be a match gun, and I really believe that. And I actually, as soon as I can find a holster for it, because Blade Tech doesn't make one, that's usually where I always go, but they don't make one for it. So I'm looking around, I'm shopping for a holster, if anybody has any suggestions. And I don't want to spend a whole lot of money. So anyway, I'm looking for an affordable holster for it. And then in which case, when I get one, I may just take this to a match and shoot it in the match. I'd really like to do that. Which leads me, by a segue, to this magazine, which is back to the 17 round magazine, but that's not the point. The point is what's in it, and that is my hand loads, and these are my match hand loads. So 124 grain and about man, don't quote me on this exactly, because it has evolved over time and I'm having a brain fart, but sitting on top of 4 grains of tight group, I believe. So that's about where we are. So I know that, you know, if I go to a sanctioned match and they chrono this load, I don't have any real concerns that it's not going to meet minimum power. But that said, I do try to power it down for all the reasons that you do that for match ammo. So it is different. It is deliberately slightly underpowered. So I want to see how that performs, especially since we've had a couple of little weird issues. So here's 10 rounds of that. Absolutely no problem at all. I would shoot that in a match all day long. Okay, federal ammo. Good to go. MagTech. Okay, I think I have satisfied myself pretty well that other than, a couple of anomalous who knows what's, um, she's running great. Certainly nothing that I experienced today in the terms of, in terms of those little malfunctions had anything to do with the trigger. They were just basically feeding or, in one case ejecting. So I did have the ejector out as part of the process, and when I put it back in, I noticed I was maybe a degree different in angle, but I doubt very seriously that degree has anything to do with anything. But one never knows, does one? That's why we test. But anyway, I did isolate one magazine that continued to give me problems with my hand load stuff more than anything. It was feeding problems. So I'm wondering if that one magazine needs to be looked at. I'll take it and put it on the bench and take it apart and clean it real good and look at it and make sure the follower angle is correct and things like that. Could be that one magazine that was causing me some of that feeding problem. All right, back to it. Finish out this mag. That reset is so nice. Again, geometry, but very nice. And this trigger's braking, and I measured it at just over 4 pounds, between 4 and 4.5, and it really does feel nice. That took almost a full pound off of the stock factory trigger weight. A full pound is nothing to sneeze at as far as differences go. So it is a very, very, very sweet trigger. They did go for the more traditional look with the hammer. Personally, I kind of like that bobbed hammer a little bit better because it's just easier to thumb cock for me. But I don't really have any objection to this one because I'm not going to thumb cock the gun very often anyway, to be honest. I might trying a restrike if I knew I had a round in the chamber and it didn't go off before. I may have cocked the hammer and tried an immediate restrike. But otherwise, I'm generally not going to thumb cock the hammer anyway. So the SA-35 is one of my favorite handguns ever since I got it. Again, it's designed in the Browning high power blueprint, and Springfield put their little touches on it and modernized it some, but they stayed extremely true to the original pistol. And so the ergonomics, the Browning high power is legendary for the ergonomics that it has, and they're all right here in your hand. The lock grips, in my opinion, sorry, red-tailed hawk was screaming at me. The lock grips really, really improve, for me, the feel of the ergonomics of the gun, because they have that Coke bottle palm swell that I personally really like on a small gun like this. Now, if it was on a big gun, my hands probably would just not be big enough to appreciate it. But on a gun like this, the palm swell grips just give it a fullness that it otherwise wouldn't have, because the SA-35 and high power comes with a very flat paneled type of grips. So if you're thinking about, if you have an SA-35 and you are given any thought at all to improving it from a shooting perspective, this trigger is really, really a good way to go. I will tell you, it is some work. This is not just drop in. There is some fitting involved. Unless you're extremely lucky, you could potentially drop the parts in, swap them out, and not have to do any custom fitting. That's not the expectation. The expectation is that you're going to do some fitting. You're going to file some of your parts, and not just the new parts. You're going to file some of the existing parts as well in the gun potentially. So from that perspective, it's kind of got to consider it a permanent change, because once you change, once you've filed on an existing part to make the new stuff fit, you know, if you try to go back, you may have problems. So consider it a permanent change if you want to do it. And be ready for it to be a little bit of effort. Like I said, you know, make sure you have the right tools. Look on Apex's site. They have a fantastic video that you can see on YouTube as well that shows the installation process. It helped me do it, and it would definitely be helpful to anyone. So I will say with a caveat that if I can do it, you probably can too. And that's usually a kind of a dumb thing to say because I have no idea who you are and what your skill level is. But my skill level is not, I am not a gunsmith. I don't play one on TV. My dad was a gunsmith. He was a damn good one, but I didn't get those genes. So, you know, it's a lot more work for me to do those kinds of, you know, little projects than it was for him and for somebody who's got that skill set. But that's important to say because, you know, probably most of you watching are not gunsmiths either. And so if you're thinking about doing this trigger job from Apex, you're going to want to know that it is something you can do. It can be a little intimidating when you look at the parts and you look at the instructions. You can start to go, ooh, you know, is this something I want to get into? But the instructions that Apex gives are so good, and their video showing the installation process is, you know, if not the very best instructional video I've ever seen, it's in the top 3. It's very good. So I would urge you to go look at that, and maybe even go look at that before you think about buying the kit, because then you'll know this is what you're getting into if you buy the kit. I do not have any affiliation with Apex Tactical, but I love their products, and they did provide to me the kit. So, you know, what you see here that I've installed in this gun was provided to me by Apex so that I could do the install, evaluate it, and, you know, tell you about it. So full disclosure, you know, I didn't pay for the parts. But I don't have any affiliation with Apex, and so I don't have any kind of a affiliation link or code or anything like that to offer you. But I do have an affiliate code with Lock Grips, and that is going to be down in the information for this video, down in the description box for the video. You definitely want to look for that and use it because it'll save you 10%, and it helps the channel. A little bit of that money comes back to me too. All right, I think that's going to wrap it up for me at the range. If I have any other thoughts that I think I need to tell you about, I'll do that back at the studio.